Are you ready to never own anything again? It is what this is literally all about. People come to you with problems. When you're in a smaller firm, you have to go find those problems. And then you have to make yourself irrelevant. If you think you know it, there is always somebody better. I don't like slowing down. It's a place where you can push yourself as hard as you want. Job number one is joining the firm. So reach out. You have nothing to lose.
So don't let the ones that wanna steal your dreams, they'll steal your dreams away. Just laugh and let it go.
Hi everybody. Today I will be speaking with Adam Crutchfield, the National Consulting Leader for PwC Canada, the firm in which I've been working for the last 5 months. Considering that I'm doing podcasting and working with PwC, it's natural to combine the two and talk with the leader of my firm within the consulting space. Adam oversees probably one of the largest number of consultants within Canada. I want to talk with him about what it's like to be a consulting leader, Canadian economy and perspective of the Canadian industry from the bird view, from the high level on which he resigns. And obviously I want to explore what is PwC Canada, what we've been focusing on, what are our goals, how is it best to get into the industry and how to succeed in this amazing field. So stay tuned and welcome. I think it's been perfect, so yeah. I was going to say no pressure, but I think my pressure is on. Start from the beginning. You have graduated with an engineering degree.
Yeah.
Mechanical engineering from the University of Alberta. And I know that right now it's a very typical path to go from engineering to consulting, probably the second most popular after a business degree.
Yeah.
Was that the plan when you have done this? And
No.
if so, why did you choose engineering and why did you decide to go to consulting?
So maybe I'll start with why I chose engineering. I always liked the notion of how things worked. And I was always taking things apart. I was always intrigued by engines and the mechanical components and how things fit. I actually originally wanted to be a fighter pilot. So I grew up, and I still have a love of airplanes and all things aerospace. I was in Air Cadets as a kid, but my eyes betrayed me. So I don't have great eyesight. I wear contacts, and it just wasn't going to work out to be a fighter pilot. And so I thought the next best thing was, well, maybe I can try to build them. So that's where I decided. I think I was 12 or 13 years old when I told my mom, I want to be an engineer. I remember having this conversation. And at the time, I thought it was because I liked building things with Lego, but it was just because I liked building things and I was curious about how things worked. So that sort of led the path to engineering. And in engineering, the first year is general, and then you choose your specialization. Mechanical always intrigued me again because of that how things work and fit together. And it felt like, at the time, it felt like the broadest sort of engineering degree that I could go for. And I was also really interested in the concept of project management and how you manage large projects. So that's what took me to engineering. When I graduated from engineering, I didn't know what management consulting was. It wasn't even on my radar. The big four were just not a thing. There was no linkage of engineering and accounting degrees at that time, at least when I went to school. And as a result, it wasn't on my radar. So I graduated with an engineering degree and immediately went into the construction industry. And so I sort of spent the formative years of my career building things on site, outside with the crews, learning things like that. That's where I started. Management consulting and PwC, it felt like a happy accident when it happened. But even when it happened, when I got the first phone call, I didn't know what I was saying yes to.
I was going to say that probably after fighter pilot, consulting would be a second job in terms of how much time you spend. Yeah,
it's funny you say that. I mean, the amount of time I'm in an airplane now would probably rival how much time I would have been in an airplane. Yeah, it's.
Do you have a license, by the way? You can be.
I don't. Yeah, no. It's. I've never found the time to go and do it, and I don't know what it was. I mean, it intrigues me to go do it one day, and I have a lot of friends who went and got their licenses, and I've flown with them as they've gone through that process. But I just never decided to do that. I focused on getting through school and getting to work. And I mean, I graduated on a Friday, and I was on a plane on the Monday morning off to work. So I took 2 days off between university and heading into the workforce, and haven't taken a day off since. So,
do you think that the experience, at least educational experience that you got from an engineering degree, helped you in any practical way when it comes to consulting and project management?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the reason I like hiring engineers now. Engineering is a very hard degree. I think, if you talk to anybody who's gone through it, you don't do it alone. You do it as a team, because the coursework is overwhelming, the lab work is overwhelming. Just the amount you have to try and pack into 4 or 5 years, depending on how you do it. It's a lot, and so you can't do it alone. So the notion of you have to learn how to work with a team, which is really important to me. It's also a degree that's based on teaching people how to solve problems, how to identify the right problem, how to solve the problem. And even as you get into some of what I found, some of the advanced 4th-year courses, the emphasis was less on the answer. The emphasis was on the process. How did you go through the process of solving the problem? So that's why I like hiring engineers now, and that's why I think I've been successful doing this, is we are asked to solve problems. And that's a really exciting thing to do. When somebody asks you to solve a problem, how you approach a problem makes all the difference.
So you think that this kind of structural approach, which trains you when you complete your engineering degree, helps you then to be more analytical in consulting?
Yeah, I think it forces you to break a problem down into components and be able to assess what those components should be and then work through them in a very logical and linear fashion to get to an outcome. And so I think in our business that lends itself and that helps, but there's a lot more things you can learn. When I joined PwC for the first time, and it was a few years in, I said to somebody in conversation, like, it would have been really nice to have a joint engineering accounting degree, which I know now exists, but the things that I've learned from our accounting colleagues have been phenomenal. And there were things that I wish I would have learned in school. Just some of the financial concepts that underpin business. And it's that natural curiosity. I think if you're curious enough, you'll go learn it and figure it out. But I think we have a real opportunity in the education system to think about how we train people differently and how we create almost like a super degree.
So how was your experience into getting in the firm?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how it was. It was, again, it felt like a happy accident. So it would have been August of 2008. So I was working for a construction company at the time.
I just started school.
You just started
Primary
school, okay. Now we're exposing our age.
Maybe I'll cut that.
No, you can keep it in. I think that's also fascinating about our business, by the way, is just the breadth of people you work with. Like we hire people that are 21 years old, working with people who are 58 years old or 60 years old, and they work together as incredible teams. I mean, to me, that is so energizing, and I think it's a really cool thing to do.
I mean, when I just finished my first day, and my mother called me and asked how was the company in comparison to the previous places I worked, the first thing I said is that I'm amazed at the flatness of the hierarchy. Then my ability to approach and communicate, the problems that I work on the same project with people who are multiple levels, higher than me. Well, look at us here, for example, sitting in one room and talking. Yeah, well,
I agree. I felt the exact same way. Like day one, and I was used to a different environment. Day one, I walked in and all the partners are right there, and you don't have to go through anybody. You can have a conversation with anybody regardless of level, and I just find that so engaging and empowering for people. I also think it's why the environment is such a massive learning environment, because there is so much experience in the building that you have access to as an individual, and then you expand that circle even further and think about the experience in the firm globally, and you literally have access to that around the world. And when you see that start to work and you're able to tap into it, I mean, it's incredible. But back to where it started.
Yeah.
So I took a call from a headhunter in the summer of 2008. Wasn't looking, didn't know what management consulting was, didn't know what PwC was, but took a call. At the time, the firm was growing the business in Alberta. So at the time, I was living in Edmonton with my wife and our dog at the time. And we'd been married for a year. I grew up in Edmonton. We were kind of looking for a change, and when was it going to be time to move, to do something different? And so I took this call from a headhunter. It sounded interesting. The firm was looking to build a capital projects practice, which sounded interesting to me. That's where I was spending my time anyhow. And I was looking for a change. And the headhunter call led from, okay, I'll take that, and then I'll talk to somebody in the firm. And then I started talking to a few people, and I talked to one lady in particular who had probably the most impactful conversation with me, and she doesn't know it was impactful, but it was impactful to me, about what it meant to join a firm like PwC. And she asked me one question, it sticks with me today, and I say it to a lot of people that I meet. She said, are you ready to never own anything again? And I didn't know what that meant at the time. She explained it to me later, and I've lived it now, but in our business, we work for our clients. And in other businesses and other industries, especially as an engineer, you were building things. It was physical things you were building, you could see them, they were hard assets, they existed. In a consulting business, we work for our clients. And our clients can always say no. They can always say, no, we're done with this project, we're gonna stop this, we're gonna pause this. So,
And you have no say on that.
and you don't have any say in that, but that's okay, because it's our client's prerogative, they can say that. So where do you invest in an environment like that? Well, the only place you can invest is in your people, in your teams, in the relationships that make up the firm. So I think it was a really powerful question. It really got me thinking, and it really got me curious about joining a firm like PwC. And so at the time, we took the plunge to move from Edmonton to Calgary, and that's where I joined the firm in the day after Thanksgiving, 2008. To join what was going to be a capital projects practice. And that was sort of started the journey of PwC for me. But I came into it really not knowing what I was getting into.
Sorry, Adam, I'm very sorry that this is happening.
That's okay. Hey. If it always worked, man.
Put it on me then, I will just say that we are back. All right, and we are back.
It was a call from a headhunter. Felt like it was out of the blue. It probably was, to join PwC. I didn't know what management consulting was. Didn't know what PwC was. Took the leap to join the firm. So joined the firm the day after Thanksgiving, October 2008, and that sort of started this career journey that I didn't know where it was going to take me. At the time, it was a decision to try something different and new. But it didn't take me very long to figure out that I love this place.
You mentioned about the ownership. Do you think that she was right? And do you think that you feel that you have enough ownership for yourself in this industry on every level?
Yeah, no, I do. And look, the question of are you ready to never own anything again was really focused on, I think, client work and how the work we do in the market. The ownership I feel is for this firm, and the ownership I feel is for the success of this firm and the people within this firm. And I think I've always felt that even before I was a partner. And to me, that's what makes the culture of this place so cool, is that everybody has that ability to feel like an owner and do the right things for the business. And because it's so flat, as you described, even as an associate, a senior associate, as a manager, I joined as a manager, it was always easy to go talk to somebody and ask a question. How does it work? How does the business work? How does our business work? What's the best way to do this? Having that involvement and the ability to ask those questions, and then having others be interested in my point of view in those things, always made me feel like I was at the table. And so I've always felt like I had ownership over my career and future here. And I'd like to think that that's still what our team members feel like.
I think a lot of people in the industry feel that maybe sometimes the lack of ownership in the consulting space is compensated by more immediate impact that you have on the businesses that you consult, right? Because right now, me as 20-something years old who recently graduated already has a chance to have a direct impact on the clients that I work for.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good point. And it's always been inspiring for me to think about, we hire new students. We hire people right out of school. And they join us with very little experience, but a lot of ambition and a lot of excitement. It doesn't take very long for them to come up the curve very quickly with the core elements of being a consultant that makes them good with our clients. And what's always so powerful, I think, is when clients recognize the talent in the room. And you know what happens when you're in a meeting or a conversation and the client turns to the young associate and says, "What do you think?" Because they have proven their mettle. They've been there, they've put the hard hours in, they've done the work to understand the client's problem, they've done the work to understand the client and build the relationship, and that client now trusts that person. But to see a 21 or 22-year-old light up when that happens, it is so cool. It is what this is literally all about. And there's no better feeling than when you're in a conversation and you don't actually have to be in it anymore because the team has taken over and the team's got it and everybody feels like they're in a good spot. So there's not a lot of industries like that. It's very unique. And I think we do it better than anybody else, but I think we've got a culture here that makes it okay to bring everybody to the table and give people opportunity. And
I think by bringing young individuals to the projects that we work for, we also bring perspective. We also bring a diversity of perspective, right? Some of these people can be potential consumers for the goods or services that our clients provide. So they can provide an idea that otherwise would not be provided by someone who have been working in the industry for too long. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good observation, very astute. That is what makes us good. If you bring the diversity of thought to a problem and bring people that have a different perspective and they look at a problem a different way, that's where we deliver value. So, look, again, not every industry does that or can do that. We do that and we encourage it. I think it makes a difference.
Throughout your time at PwC, you had 2 years when you have left the firm and you have joined another consulting company.
Yeah.
I want to know, why have you done that? Why did you decide to come back? And maybe a little bit about how this experience contributed to your success when you were back in PwC.
Like I said, when I joined PwC originally, I didn't really know what I was joining. I didn't know what I was getting into. Very quickly, I fell in love with the firm. I really embraced the culture. I really got into it and had, I think, some success along the way. A few years into that, and let's face it, I think early in one's career, there's a natural tendency to churn through career and opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so early in my career, every couple years I was looking for the next thing and doing the next thing. And I guess I had been with the firm for 5 years, which had been the longest I'd ever been in a job. Prior to that, it was 4 years, which was the job before PwC. Been with the firm for 5 years, and I was wondering, I knew deep down this is probably what I was going to do for the rest of my career, which was a really unsettling feeling because that felt like a long time. And at the time, I was questioning personally whether I was good at this because of the fact I was with PwC, or I was good at this because of what I brought to the table. And so that question kept nagging, and as good questions do, you have to answer them. And I decided to go answer that question by leaving the firm and trying something different, joining a smaller firm, building something from the ground up, which was a whole different challenge. The way that opportunities are presented when you're part of a firm like PwC is different. People come to you with problems. When you're in a smaller firm, you have to go find those problems. And so it was 2 hard years of building a team and building a client base, but it taught me a lot. And it was a great firm full of really good people, and I learned a lot, but I missed the size and scale and culture and everything we have here. And I had stayed close to it. I would say my heart never actually left. And so 2 years on from making the decision to leave, there was an ask to come back. And it took me, we had built a team. I had built a team and a business, and that was hard to think about leaving. But the opportunity to come back was the draw was very high. And look, a lot of the people that I care about and I sort of grew up with in the firm were still there, and it's something I wanted to come back to. So I came back. It's also an interesting point about our firm. I think that's the kind of firm we have to be, and that's one of the cool things about our industry. You could join the firm like PwC, stay for a couple years, leave for a couple, come back. But I think we provide people with the opportunity to accelerate their career.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it this way, and I remember saying this to the first class of graduates that I hired when I was in the firm. I was the director at the time. It was the first class of graduates we were hiring, in this case, out of the U of C. And I said, look, if you compared yourself to a peer and you had a peer join an industry not ours and you joined PwC, my goal is that over the course of 3 or 4 years, you do this. You double the experience because of the experience you're going to have as part of PwC Consulting, PwC Canada Consulting. And I think we do that because when I look at the opportunities that are afforded team members when clients come calling or others give them opportunities, these are really good opportunities. And for the most part, I'm happy to say to people, that's a great opportunity, you should take that. And by the way, when it's not great anymore, we'll still be here. So come on back. And look, I have a personal philosophy. I think somebody's last 2 weeks in a firm should be their best 2 weeks. When you tell somebody you're leaving, yeah, it's sad. It's not great. You don't like to see people leave. But at the same time, if they're leaving because they're getting a great opportunity and you happen to be part of creating that opportunity for somebody, I think it's a good thing. So as a firm, I think we've always got to be good at letting people join, letting people leave, and then letting them rejoin.
So consulting becomes a career accelerator.
It should be a career accelerator, 100%. It should also be a career that you can come into and go out of multiple times over the course of a career.
To use a military aircraft analogy for you, I like to think about the beginning of your career as, on the aircraft carrier, you have this, maybe you know better, but you have this machine that accelerates the planes.
Catapult.
Right, exactly, thank you. Maybe you built them before, I don't know, but that allows them to speed up the initial, the initial ground up. So I think sometimes, your first years of career, especially when consulting, is a little bit similar to that.
It's a great analogy because the first couple of years, it kind of feels like you're being shot out of a cannon. Hold on, and the advice I give new folks who join us, hold on, learn as much as you can, just say yes. You're going to get asked to get involved in things that you never thought you would have been asked when you joined. When you come in, don't try and lock yourself into one small area. Be open to the width and breadth of the firm, because if you're open to that and you have a natural curiosity about all of our clients, the opportunities afforded you will be enormous. But it does feel like a bit of a hold-on experience for the first couple of years, because you've recently joined. It's a bit of a crazy place to join. It does not slow down. If you wanted it to go 24/7, it would. There's always something going on. There's always something you can be involved in. I mean, that's a pretty energizing thing. It does require that you manage your time, though, because your whole life can become the firm. So that's the other piece of advice I give people is you are in control of your calendar, and you need to remain in control of your calendar, because the minute your calendar takes control, it's not a good thing.
I want to learn a little bit about how this career progression goes from the moment you become a partner, because I know it's a little bit different. You've been part of multiple roles. You've been a national, now you're obviously a national consulting leader. You've been the head of energy sector. You've been the head of Alberta office. You have done work in the internal system, internal services. So I want to know, is it the same as you just being promoted, or it's more of an appointment? How is it different in comparison to all other levels?
It's very much the same, I would say. So progression as a partner is really as you gain experience and have the capacity to do more, you are asked to do more and take on different things. The first 3 to 4 years of being a partner is really just about being a good partner. And a lot of that is the transition, in our case, transition from director to partner. That takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Although becoming a partner for us happens on a date, it takes time to fully transition from what you were doing to what you're going to be doing. And so the first 3 to 4 years is really about being a good partner, learning how to be a partner, building your clients, building your team, all those sorts of things. As you're able to do that, you are asked to take on more, because not only are we working for our clients, but we're building a firm. And that means doing things for the firm and in the market that support the broader firm outside of what you just do individually. So I've always felt like it's the same as progression through the levels. You come into a level, you've never done it before, you've got to take on a whole bunch of new responsibility, you've got to figure that out, you've got to get good at that, and then you have to make yourself irrelevant. So the minute you make yourself irrelevant because you've created a team that can do what you're doing, that's typically the time that you're asked to do the next thing. But I think that's really important. Like I think leaders should make themselves irrelevant. If you've done that, it means you've created a team that can do it. But it's tough because you got to give things up, and you got to be willing to step back.
And I think that also what amazed me when I came to this firm, that we have every single partner is responsible there is an ownership, that every single partner is responsible for a specific sector, a specific industry, a specific alignment. So you have a small piece of the market for which you're responsible for a bigger firm.
Yeah.
So coming back to your point about less ownership in the industry, I think they do, right? Because when I become, head of insurance sector for our firm, then every single insurance client, every single insurance problem, every single project that requires my expertise, relates to me.
It does, but you also have to think of these things as roles, and they're not permanent appointments. So you hold that role for a period of time. You're a caretaker and a custodian of that role for the betterment of the firm, for the period of time that you have it. It's not yours, it's the firm's. And I think that's really important, is that as you take on these accountabilities, the goal is always to leave it in a better spot than you found it, but you're a custodian of something for the firm. We are a group of partners and a partnership. What makes a partnership strong is the partners, and the partners' willingness and eagerness to work together and trust each other and build something together, and also create something with longevity. That is really important. You are creating generational longevity. You're creating something for the partners that will come after you. It's also the job of a partner to make partners. And that's back to that point about you got to kind of make yourself irrelevant. Like, we all had the opportunity to make partner here and create a career here. Our goal should be to do the same for everybody behind us. Create that space and opportunity for people to become partners, for those who want to, and enjoy a career in an incredible firm. It really is a wild ride. It is quite the career. I never thought I'd be someplace this long, and here we are, 16 years later almost. Still going, and I still love this place.
So instead of seeing yourself as, this is my piece of the pie, you're seeing yourself, this is a chain of different people that, someone helped to grow me up, and now my responsibility is to grow other people.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly the accountability.
I like to, sometimes when I'm motivating myself, I like to think that one of my clients throughout my life is me in the future. And my salary is all the good things that are given to me by myself in the past. So I'm because me in the past worked hard to give me all the things that I have right now, it's my responsibility to continue the cycle and give myself good things in the future.
Yeah, well, you're kind of building a creative value for yourself, right? This is the thing. And this is where, look, nobody that joins a firm like ours and does what we do is necessarily patient, but the firm forces you to be patient, because you have to build towards these things. And there's a lot of experience to be gained in first learning how to be an associate, and then a senior associate, and then a manager. The first time you're truly managing a team of people, that's different. We ask our directors to take on significant accountability, and then we ask partners to take on significant accountability. It takes time to learn how to do those things well. And I'm not saying I do them well today, but it takes time to learn how to do them. And I think it's important that you keep looking at those you work with for inspiration on how you could do it better. Because there is always somebody better in an organization like ours. Always. If you think you know it, there is always somebody better.
part one, we learned a little bit about you. We learned about Adam. And now I want to ask a bigger question. I want to start with 2 questions about motivation. What made you not decide to stop and maybe slow down at a certain level?
Maybe it's back to that desire to be a fighter pilot as a kid. I don't like slowing down. To me, slowing down feels like going backwards. And I feel like I handle stress pretty well, which means that I enjoy pushing myself. And it's always felt like here I could really push myself. And I think that's why I've been here this long. And that's why my intention is to stay here. It's a place where you can push yourself as hard as you want. And you kind of get to do it with your friends too, which is cool. And you get to meet incredible people. You get to hire incredible people. The client conversations we get involved in still stagger me. What we're asked to do and the things that we're asked to get involved with. So, look, I think the notion of going fast, being part of the best is kind of what drew me here. It's what's kept me here. And I think my accountability now is to make sure we stay here.
Out of curiosity, is there any people who are still working in PwC who were working when you joined?
Yeah. You mean like partners?
I mean, I don't know.
Anybody?
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah. Well, there's a cohort that I call and talk to that it feels like they've been here as long as I have, and they've probably been here longer. My first coach in the firm, one of my best friends, he was transferred from the UK. We started on the same day in Calgary. He was a director, I was a manager. He's still here. Our wives are best friends, our kids are friends. I mean, that is just what's so cool at this place. There are so many faces that I see every day that I can't tell you how long they've been here, but they've been here longer than I have, or they've been here the same amount of time as I have. But there's a really neat cohort, and across the firm, I would say that is a very unique feature of an organization like ours. We have a lot of partners that essentially grew up here, that like their first job was PwC, and they grew up. They literally grew up here. They became young adults. They got married at the same time. They all had kids at the same time. Like they went through life events together. That is really neat. That creates a bond that you don't always find everywhere else, and it creates a level of trust I think is really important. So, yeah, I mean, slowing down never felt like an option. I'm not sure I'll ever slow down. And why have I stayed? Like, I can't imagine being anywhere else, to be honest.
So back to motivation, I want to know a little bit about how the industry has changed since the moment you joined, and maybe talk a little bit about how does your approach in motivating and working with people of different generation has changed. My Gen Z is known to be a bit different when it comes to our corporate approach. We are more self-centered sometimes. We are sometimes more demanding and patient. I think this is partially why consulting is also so popular these days, because we lack of our lower focus span wants us to do different things and progress as quickly as possible. So I want to know, how do you keep managing and motivating young employees, and how has this process changed?
I don't think the industry has changed that much, to be honest. I mean, I think at the time that I joined, and I joined as a manager, I'm sure we scared the hell out of the senior partners, because we were doing things differently. We were using computers differently. We were using technology differently. We were thinking differently. We were wanting to do this and try that. None of that's changed. I think that's what makes our industry so good. And I think what's so energizing about our industry is today we hire a bunch of folks like you. I wake up in the morning wondering how I'm going to stay ahead of you. How do we keep moving in a direction that makes this place exciting enough for you to stay? That is what motivates me now. And I think that's all predicated on the kind of work that we do, the kind of training we provide, the kind of opportunities we provide, the global reach that we provide. that's what I think keeps us going. But I don't think it's changed that much. We've always been on the leading edge of technology. We've always been on the leading edge of problem solving. We've always been on the leading edge of what comes next. And we've been quick to adapt to and embrace new technology so we can bring it into our clients because they're asking us questions about it. That's always been the way. I think we're just following the natural evolution of society and technology. How we interact, how we connect, how we communicate, how we work, how we collaborate, it has all fundamentally changed. I remember joining the firm when we would share documents. It'd be like version 1, version 2, version 2.1, version 2.2. You'd have versions all over the place. We don't do that anymore. We collaborate in a single version. Well, that was a fundamental shift in how we worked. But because we were open to change, to me at least, it felt like that just happened overnight. Like we turned off one technology and turned another one on, and we just kept going. But more importantly, we quickly embraced the opportunity that gave us. And so, has the industry changed? I'm sure it has. Do I feel like it's changed? No, I just think our roles in it have all changed. And the position you're in today will change 5 years from now. And you'll be running to stay ahead of the folks that you hire. But it's exciting, and it's energizing. I hope it's empowering, but it's kind of what's kept me interested.
Few questions about logistics. I'm very curious. How do you manage to operate multiple offices at the same time? Because at least in Canada, I cannot name all of them. I admit that. Maybe you can, but I know that we have offices in almost all provinces, if not all of them, right? There's one in Toronto, there's one at Calgary, there's in Vancouver, there's Quebec. Yeah. How do you manage to operate all of them at the same time?
In the role that I have today, it's important to be present in our offices. And so how do I approach that? Well, our biggest office is the GTA, Toronto, where we are today. So I spend, if I take a 4-week view of the world, 2 to 3 weeks out of those 4 here. What that looks like for me is typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here, Monday and Friday in Calgary. The 3rd week of travel will either be in Montreal or in Ottawa or Vancouver. So I'm in Calgary where I live Mondays and Fridays typically. In a 4-week cycle, I'm typically traveling 3 out of 4. And good advice from our CEO was in a 4-week cycle, try and be home for 1 week as well. So I think it's super important that you're not always traveling, because you could be. And again, this is back to that point about managing your calendar. I think you've got to be careful about it. I think the thing that surprised me, and this even happened when I was a manager. So the first big project I had was in Chicago. And so I would fly from Calgary to Chicago Monday morning, and I would come back Thursday night. I did that for the better part of a year. The first 3 or 4 weeks, it felt like a lot of hard work traveling. It was amazing how quickly you adjust to traveling. And so today I leave early Tuesday morning, full days here wherever I am. But I think it's kind of a mindset. Like, it's just, we're a business that is across the country, and so we have to be across the country. More importantly, we have to be where our clients are. And so that means time in an airplane or time on a train or whatever the case may be. But I gotta say, as a manager growing up in the firm, I really enjoyed that. I mean, that's what always felt so cool, is that I got to see and do things not everybody got to do because I was traveling. I got to go to places I never thought I would have gone. I can't even list the number of cool places and facilities and things that I've been in or been part of because of the PwC experience. And it's those intangibles that they just keep me hooked. I think they keep everybody hooked.
Every time I see Adam in the office, he's with a briefcase. With a suitcase. So I know that you are traveling somewhere from one place to another. I was always. Have you calculated by any chance how many hours have you spent on the plane up in the air, like throughout the year? You know, there's the movie.
I know.
Up in the air.
Yeah.
Maybe wait a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you got to wear special shoes to get through security that fast. I've never calculated. I could. I mean, I think I got an email from Air Canada at the end of the year telling me how many flights I'd taken and all that sort of stuff. But I don't. You could obsess over how much time you spend in an aluminum tube at 35,000 feet, or look, I treat it as a great opportunity to not only catch up on things, but to actually think about things. That's probably the thing about our business that is the toughest to manage, is that it can go 24/7, and it can go nonstop, back to back to back to back, and carving out time to actually think is really important. And for me, I use the time on the airplane to do that. Think, read, actually write something, read things that I need to read. So I use the time as productively as I can. Sometimes I sleep, because sometimes on Thursday night, I'm pretty exhausted, but that's okay.
Besides geographical spread of your job, you also have the same spread when it comes to industries and your expertise in different sectors.
Yeah.
So in contrast to majority of us who still focus on one smaller or bigger sector, you have to work with clients across all of them, right? I remember you joined one of the financial services meetings, which I am part of. You originally come from the energy. We also have technology, we have public sector, we have private companies, we have all of these things.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how do you stay in touch, and how do you keep on top when it comes to having some level of expertise in so many places at the same time?
So I don't have expertise in all those things. I'll start there. I think we have experts in all those areas. I am not one of them. I still, I come from energy utilities and heavy industrial mining. That's kind of where I grew up and where I'm still most comfortable. So if I'm going to add value for a client, that is typically where I'll do it, because that is where I can work with clients. Those are the clients that I work with. We have a broad range of capabilities in the firm. We serve a broad range of industries and sectors. I don't try to be an expert in all those things. What I try to do is get to know our experts in all those areas. And I think that always comes back to this point about being the connector. So in our firm, the most important thing you can do is to be the connector to the expert. Listen to what the client is saying, understand what the problem is, and then figure out who you need to go find to bring with you to the next conversation, and not try to be the expert in everything. So yeah, we have a breadth in our firm. There is no doubt, like most firms like ours. I think what's important is to recognize that I can't possibly be the expert in all those things. And my job is to make sure that I find the right people.
So now your job becomes listening to clients and understanding what potential capability leaders and what potential teams would be the most relevant when it comes to solving the problem that.
Yeah, I think that's always been the job. That's not my job now. That's always been the job of everybody in the firm. Every partner, every director, every senior manager, every manager. My job now actually is listening a lot to our partners and our staff about what needs to change, what needs to improve, what can we do differently, where do we need to grow, where do we need to invest. So a lot of my clients now are our partners and our teams, and figuring out what we need to do differently and better. So look, the focus changes, but the approach is the same, I think.
So in part 3, I thought I must talk with you about consulting in Canada from the top point of view, from talking about our industry as a whole. And I want to pick your brain now a little bit about the economy of Canada and the future that you see for our country from the consulting perspective. So because you have worked with clients in multiple different industries, multiple geographical regions, I want to know a little bit on what do you think will happen in terms of composition of these industries within our economy on the next 5-10 years, and do you think we'll still be able to remain competitive in these regions? Because Canada obviously has big part when it comes to natural resources, but there's a potential concern that there's happening a brain drain to the United States. We cannot compete in terms of the cost in some of the developing countries. So how do you think we're going to be addressing these challenges?
What I would say is this, I think those challenges have always existed for Canadian clients, Canadian firms, Canadian organizations. What I see is our clients, us, industry in general, doing a lot to tackle the problems of today and getting ready for the problems of tomorrow. So although Canada has a productivity issue, which is well published, there's been a lot of work done to get better at that. And I think there's been a lot of effort put into making strides. I see a lot of our clients, and I see us figuring out where we're going to go next. We're not waiting for it to happen to us anymore. And I think that's what's changed in the Canadian economy is we are moving towards being on the front foot. And I think that's a really important stance to take, is that we have to take accountability and ownership for our businesses and figure out where we are going to take them. So look, we're lucky in this country. We have a lot of world-leading, world-class organizations that are based in Canada. A lot of them are our clients. They're doing amazing things not only here, but around the world. And so we aren't just Canada, we are part of the global economy, and I think more and more how we act and react to the global economy becomes important. So look, the economic headwinds have always been there. It goes up and down, and our business moves with it. I think what's important is that we create the agility to be able to respond as things change, respond quickly. We typically have a pretty good sense of when things are going up and when things are going down before it happens, because we are working with such a breadth of clients. And if we're doing our jobs right, we're listening. We're listening to what they're telling us, we're listening to the questions they're asking, we're listening to the problems they're bringing forward. If you put all that together, you can start to stitch together a view of, okay, what's happening out there? I think that's the secret we can bring back to our clients is what are we seeing based on all the things we're hearing? If I think of the conversations that our CEO has with CEOs around the country, he gets this incredible insight about what's going on, and he shares that with us because it provides a level of insight that you don't always have. So, look, I can't tell you where the economy is going. What I can tell you is that we are focused on building a business that is agile and resilient in the face of whatever the economy does. And to me, that means creating capability in our teams to act and respond to what's coming, creating a strong structure that enables our teams to be proactive with our clients, and allowing our creativity to be unleashed. In times of challenge, creativity is so important. And I think that's what we have so much of inherent in our DNA and our people, is this creative approach to problem solving. And we bring that to everything we do. As long as we keep doing that, we're going to be okay. And more importantly, I think Canada's going to be okay.
Do you think it matters for me as a young associate in which city in Canada do I start my career, and in which subsector of consulting? And if so, what would be your advice of where should I or someone else as a young professional should be aiming towards when they're just starting their career?
It's a good question. Look, I think you could join any one of our big offices and have an incredible experience. I think the question to ask yourself as a young person coming into this industry is, what are the kind of sectors that I want to work in? And across the country, we have industries and sectors that are more prevalent in certain areas than others. So where do I want to spend my time? Where do I want to learn? What are the types of clients that I think I want to work for as I'm growing in this industry? That will help point you towards maybe where you should work. But all that being said, I think you can join this organization anywhere around the world, and that's what makes it so cool. You can join the firm anywhere around the world and have the opportunity to be part of the firm throughout the world via the network of firms. It is such a powerful network, and it works so well to bring people together and opportunities together. I think of some of my best friends who are partners here or have been partners elsewhere. They've moved around the world, and that's what a firm like this affords you. So I think job one is join us, join the firm, and say yes to the opportunity, and say yes to working across multiple industries, and say yes to working with multiple clients. And that will open up opportunities that you probably haven't even dreamed of yet. Your job then is to spot them, and more importantly, tell people you're interested in taking them on. I think that's a really important step that a lot of people miss, is when they want to do something, they don't tell somebody. They say they want to do it to themselves, but they don't act on it. They don't let anybody else know. The minute you tell me, it becomes my accountability to help you. I think it's important that you articulate what you want to do and then watch the firm carry you. It's based on your ability to communicate what you want to do and then put in the effort to get there, and then people will carry you there. That's what's so cool about this place, is that people come together to lift team members up and give them opportunity. And I see it over and over again. It happens all the time.
You miss 100% of shots you do not take. Coming back to what you said about being member of a global firm, how can an associate best leverage an opportunity to work for different sectors and different clients and perhaps even different offices when they are part of PwC?
Yeah. Well, look, again, I think job number one is joining the firm and being willing to try different things and be involved in multiple sectors and industries and be involved in multiple different kinds of projects. And then job number two is, as you get comfortable with the firm, looking around to understand the network of firms in greater detail. What happens around the world? Where are we doing certain things? Where do our clients operate? What might you be interested in? And then putting your hand up if the desire to travel or go on secondment is something you want to do. But that's an incredibly powerful part of the network of firms, is that we encourage people to travel. We encourage people to second. We encourage people to go have experiences, because when you go and work somewhere else and spend time in a different country, you not only do great work for great clients, but you learn something about living somewhere else, and it makes the world smaller. And then the network really starts to work for you, because you get to know people around the world, and now you know who to call. You can connect the dot that other people can't. So I think it's such a powerful opportunity. So number one, join, and then number two, keep your eyes open and see what's out there, and proactively make it known this is something you want to do.
I know you made a whole podcast about AI, but watch it on Adam's LinkedIn. With AI, potentially, more and more functions that has previously done by associates in consulting would be now done by AI. How can I remain competitive in the industry?
So again, I think this has always been there. AI is just the current tool. How do you remain competitive? Figure out how to use the tools and embrace the tools. We as a firm provide pretty incredible technology tools to everybody. Some people choose to embrace them and some don't. Those who choose to embrace them accelerate, because they figure out how to do things differently. So I think that's really important, is don't be afraid of what the opportunity is, but instead figure out how you embrace it. The other thing I would say is that we're kind of in this age with AI of we're at the beginning. We're just learning. We're figuring out how to leverage net new technologies and tools. That's a really exciting spot to be, because 5 years from now, a lot will be figured out and it will be given to you as a way to do something. Today, we have the opportunity to figure out how to do it. So we have the opportunity to reinvent our work today. So look, I think it's always been there. It doesn't matter what technology tool you pick. As you go back in time, it was a fundamental shift from what we were doing yesterday. Those who embraced it accelerated.
Last question in this area I wanted to ask. Since the end of the pandemic, obviously there's been a lot, and during the pandemic there's been a lot of changes happening in Canada and the world, and changes for consulting industry means that we have to adapt and we have to help others adapt. So what do you think are the biggest challenges that consulting industry and our clients see today, and how do we help address these challenges?
How do I fully embrace technology? How do I move to the cloud? How do I embrace AI? How do I make this all work? How do I deploy it into my organization and give people the tools to do things differently? How do I actually change the way we work with these tools? I think the biggest risk is that you buy a new technology tool and you turn it into your old technology tool because you're not willing to embrace what it does. So I think that's the biggest challenge. That's the things that we're getting asked about, is how do I actually transform my organization? How do I make things change? How do I do something different? How do I make myself agile to prepare for the next thing? How do I do more with less? I may not have the people that I had before to do what I need to do today. So how am I going to make this happen? Again, it's all the questions. It's questions. It's always questions.
A few questions more about PwC. I want to know, if you can share, what are the main goals for PwC Consulting for the next 3 to 5 years? I know that we are doing a lot of changes in recruitment, if we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And what are we trying to achieve, and what are the biggest challenges that we are about to face?
At its core, what we're trying to achieve is growth. We want to continue to grow. That's the only way we create future opportunity within the organization. So we want to continue to grow. I think as I look at it, we've got to look at how we grow across the country. Canada's a big place. How our clients buy and the things they ask us for across the country tend to differ. And so we have to be ready and agile to be able to respond to that in our major regions. I think it's very important. We have to make sure we are adding and building from the base up. So the pandemic was tough. Like, we slowed down and then things just accelerated. We hired like crazy. Our firm, all firms sort of grew, businesses grew, sort of a reckoning at the end of COVID as we sort of all came out of that. We're back in a point now of looking at how do we responsibly grow our organization. For me, that means getting back in the business of building associates, building senior associates, hiring from campus, creating managers, which become our best partners. Like, we have to get back in the business of building the firm from the ground up. So I think that's our biggest opportunity as well as our biggest challenge, because that's not easy. It takes time, it takes energy. It would be easier just to go out and hire experienced consultants and say that's the goal and all's done. But that's not the best thing to do, because we actually create the best consultants when we build them from the ground up. So that's where we're going over the next 5 years. We have a very aspirational growth target of where we want this practice to be. A lot of that is predicated on how we are able to properly grow in BC and Alberta and Manitoba and Ontario and Quebec. We have to be good in all those spots. We have to be good as well in what the Canadian economy is. We have incredible public companies in this country that we have to work for. We have government and public sector that we work for, and we have to work for them very responsibly. We have private enterprise, which is the backbone of the Canadian economy, that we have to work for responsibly. So, look, I think we have a lot of opportunity at growth, which means a lot of opportunity to create opportunity for those who join the team. And more importantly, I think we have the opportunity to build new teams. That's what makes us good, when we are willing to invest and build in new teams, and that's what we're going to be doing.
If you can share a bit about what kind of people do you think you're looking for the growth that we're about to face?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think we're looking for all kinds. So we're looking for engineers. We're looking for developers. We're looking for people with business degrees. We're looking for accountants. We're looking for everybody, because the problems we're being asked to solve are very multifaceted. A lot of them are technology-based, but they're technology coupled with business. How is my business going to change? How do I couple technology to change my business? How do I use that to expand and grow? So we're looking for all kinds. And I would never want to tell anybody coming out of school that this isn't something you should consider. Because if you were to look across the organization today and ask people for all their original degrees, I think you would literally find every degree you could possibly get. It's what people have done with it that becomes interesting. So I think we are looking for all sorts of individuals to join the team. And I think we've got to be a home for all those people. How developers want to work, how engineers want to work, how accountants want to work, the backgrounds they come from. We have to be welcoming to all the backgrounds, because when we create these diverse teams, we create real strength. It's not easy to hold a diverse team together, but when you do it, you create real strength.
I'm very curious to ask, how do you interact and collaborate with other industry leaders in other consulting firms? So, do you know people who are heading other Big Four consulting firms personally? And if so, maybe you can share a little bit about, is there any projects on which you work together with them to advance the industry forward?
Right now, I'm not personally working with other firms to advance the industry forward. I know people in other firms, obviously, and talk to them. I have friends in other firms. I think what's really interesting, it doesn't matter which firm you talk to, we're all focused on the same thing, which is building teams of people to do some pretty incredible things. I think what sets us apart is the culture. Each of them is different. So, no, I don't spend my time with our competitors and with other firms. I'm more focused on our people. I'm focused on our partners. I'm focused on our clients. I think that's where I spend the majority of my time, and where I think we should all be spending our time. We exist because of our clients. That's where it all starts and ends with. And so if we're able to build good people and partners that support our clients, we're doing the right thing.
You mentioned that where we differ is culture. In a few words, what do you think is unique about PwC culture?
I think it's collaboration and high performance. So we require and expect high performance. I think we demand it of ourselves, but in a collaborative environment. It's the reason I came back. It's the reason I've stayed. It's because I don't find this to be a place where people have their elbows up. I find this to be a place where people are wanting and willing to work together. It's a place where I've seen if somebody gets in trouble, people don't turn away from that and leave them alone. People turn towards it and go and help. That is the culture of this place, and that's why I love this place. Sometimes we forget that, and we've got to remind ourselves that it really is about a high-performance collaborative culture full of individuals who choose to be part of a team. But to me, that's what makes this place so cool. I always enjoyed being on teams as a kid. I still enjoy being on teams. We have a really big team now, but I think being part of a team, being part of something, it means something. And look, I think as you grow up in a firm like ours, you don't always understand the experience you're gaining along the way until you're later in your career. And this will happen to you at some point. And it happened to me when I ended up in a conversation, and we were talking about X, Y, Z, and I was able to reference back to something I had been in 10 years ago, but it was relevant. But I had remembered it, I had listened, I had taken it in. I think that's what makes it great, is that you create this library of learning in a team environment. And if you ever forget something, you can always go talk to a teammate and they will remember it. So that's the benefit of being part of a team, and a team that wants to collaborate is you are literally all working together.
You rely on each other.
Yeah, you rely on each other. You trust each other. And extending that even further to the global network of firms, you can go around the world and you walk into a PwC office, you feel like you're home. You are welcomed as a member of PwC. And that is a really cool feeling. I don't think it happens everywhere.
I want to finish with a few tips that you might share to young professionals, but I assume that also this might be watched by someone a little older in their career. So a couple of blitz questions. I want to first ask, what do you think is the most important interpersonal skills when it comes to getting into consulting and also succeeding in consulting as an associate?
Curiosity. 100% curiosity. Be willing to learn. Ask the question, make sure you listen to the answer, and be willing to learn. And that would apply from an associate all the way through to a senior partner.
My next question was, what do you think is the most important skill?
Curiosity.
For a manager or a partner?
It doesn't change in my mind. I think curiosity, creativity, willingness to learn, willingness to let others take on accountability, willingness to give it all up and let somebody else do it. I mean, those are the things that I think we actually hold as requirements in our culture, and I see them every day, but I think curiosity is the most important thing.
Now, if you could have given yourself one advice on the day that you graduated, what do you think would it be?
Be patient. Be patient. It's a hard thing to do, and it's really hard when you first graduate, because you just want to take on the world and have everything and do everything all at once. But you got to be patient.
Do you think that lack of patience helped you accelerate in your career and be in the place where you are right now?
Sometimes, yeah. But ironically, it doesn't matter where you are. Somebody will always force you to be patient. If you join a firm like PwC, and let's say you come from industry and you join a firm like PwC, you never worked in consulting before, this feels like a pretty crazy place to join. It is moving at 140 miles an hour. There's 1,000 things going on, people in all directions. There's a lot happening. And if you're not used to that or familiar with that or comfortable with that, it can feel like a lot. So I think you have to be patient with yourself and give yourself time to understand. Understand the business, understand the people, get to know the organization, and then you will slowly figure out how it works, but you've got to be patient. I think what's important about us is that we're also patient with people, because we collectively realize it's not an easy place to jump into because we are moving so fast. So we have to give people the time and space to figure it out. And that means that on day one, they're not going to have it all sorted, but it's our collective accountability to help people get there. So I think being patient it's really important. It's also important when you're in a conversation with the client, because being patient means that you're willing to listen to the answer. And that is a learned skill that doesn't always come easy. If you're always thinking about the next thing you're going to say, you're not listening. And I had to learn the hard way, and we all go through that coaching moment when we haven't actually listened to the answer, and it comes back to bite us. So I think patience is important because it forces us to stop and actually listen to what's going on.
I was listening. And now I want to know a little bit about your next steps and the career goals. I assume that it's going to be a little bit like primarily around developing our business as a whole, PwC Canada as a whole.
Yeah.
Anything else besides that?
No, the goal I'm focused on right now is the growth of our consulting business over the next 5 years. Where are we going to take this? And leaving it for the next person in a spot that we probably never thought we could get to. So that's my aspiration. That's my goal. My goal is right now is also to retire here. Like I never thought I'd ever say that. I never thought I would say that, but it is such a cool place to be, and such a cool place to be part of, and such a cool team to be part of. I mean, the opportunities it's afforded me being part of PwC is I never thought I would do what I've done at this point in my life. So look, my aspiration is to grow our business and honestly build and make new partners. That is such a cool process to watch somebody go through that and be able to make the phone call or help them do that. That is really what I'm focused on.
I was going to say my next question was about if you considered at some point exiting consulting or joining an industry or political career, because I don't know how exit works at your level, but
yeah,
you think that you love it so much that you will be here.
Yeah, right now I hope the firm will have me that long. Look, and partners leave all the time because incredible opportunities come up in industry or elsewhere. And again, just like a staff member leaving, I think when those things happen, although difficult, you got to celebrate them in the right way. Would I ever change? It's not even crossing my mind. I mean, I never thought I would ever say that. When I was
as
your
an
age,
engineer.
Yeah, as an engineer, when I was your age, I never thought I would say that. But no, I see no end to opportunity for me to continue to grow and develop here, and I don't see any reason why I'd get bored. And I just think there's so much more we can do. So no, I'm pretty focused. As long as the firm will have me, I'm pretty focused on staying.
Why should someone join consulting? Why should someone be in consulting?
And I say this as somebody who didn't really know about this industry until I kind of bumped into it. I think of all the things you can do, it provides a level of variety you just don't find anywhere else. I think it provides a level of learning that you don't always get. It is a career accelerator, I believe. I think sometimes consulting gets a bad rap in the market, you know.
What do you think is the bad rap?
Well, we're the guys who take your watch to tell you the time. And you know what? I actually take offense to that, because when I look at the people that we hire and the work that they do and the hours they put in and the effort they put in and the care they put in, like, this is a group of people who really care, and they really care about doing a good job, and they really care about the teammates they work with, and they really care about building a better practice and firm, and you just don't find that everywhere. So look, I think as a career and as a thing you could do for a career or for a period of time, I think it's pretty amazing. And the people you will meet, whether you're here for 6 months or 6 years, the people you will meet will be people that you will know for the rest of your life. And I come back to that comment that you made at the very start about how flat the organization is. Just before Christmas, I was at a retirement party for one of our former partners who went to industry and then officially retired. And look, he was the scariest person I ever met when I joined the firm. He terrified me. He's also the nicest man I've ever met, and like, it turned out to be an incredible mentor. He was one of the most senior partners in the firm, and he literally came and talked to me the first day. And I didn't know what to say. Like, I was used to this hierarchy, and yet he operated differently. And that showed me a lot about what this firm actually is, and it's kind of like spurred me on. I think it's a career that a lot of people should consider, because it gives you variety. It really gives you variety.
Well, and the fact that you responded to my message when I texted you first time on my first day, I believe, was also very surprising to me. It was a pleasant surprise. And I wanted to say that I have one more question, but before I do it, I wanted to say that, you know, I'm very glad that you came here and that you show your, you know, appreciation and care towards everyone in our consulting practice, and that you come here and you sit with me.
Yeah, well, look, I think what you're doing is great. I wish there was podcasts when I was going to school, and B, I wish there was a podcast like yours, because there's things you can learn that from listening to people and listening to experiences that they just weren't available before. And I think that's so cool for everybody who's either in school today or about to go to school or mid-career and looking for a change. You have this incredible ability to access information and learn about other things. And look, all I want us to do is get connected with the best people. So, no, I'm glad you reached out. I mean, not everybody would. I'm really glad you reached out.
A lot of people are probably looking at you and wish they can replicate your success, they can mimic what you have been doing. What would be your kind of main words of wisdom in terms of how can people go and achieve success in professional life?
I think it comes back to that comment about curiosity and patience. Be willing and be open to try different things and get involved in things that you might not have thought or where you're going to spend your time. And be open to an industry like ours that you may not have considered, or maybe you have, but you have a certain perception of it. Look, I don't think I'm the person to hold out as the picture of success. I'm just a guy who happened to fall in love with the firm, and I've been here a long time, and I still like doing cool things, and we got a lot more time to do cool things. But I think for anybody who's listening, like, kind of do what you just did. Reach out, get to know people. You can join a firm like ours and literally meet nobody if you choose to. You can come in every day, you can go home, and you could have met nobody. Or you can choose to get to know people. And when you build a network, like, I remember being in school and being taught networking and the importance of a network. Until I joined PwC, that was just a word. It wasn't until I joined that I really understood the power of a network and what it can do for you. And I think that is so important. Create a network, leverage a network, get to know people, and don't be afraid to reach out beyond whatever level you're at. there is no reason there's no reason you wouldn't talk to people. It's constructs of business that mean that you won't reach out. But the reality is, if you bumped into somebody in the street, you'd probably have a conversation with them. So reach out. You have nothing to lose.
Слышу голос и вонящая дорога, кружит голову.